on the Rubin Report.
You don't have to be Einstein's cousin.
The liberals actually need conservatism to defend liberalism.
Are we deporting folks?
They should do the Clockwork Orange thing with his eyes.
Not talking about peaceful protests anymore.
He'll be the opening act at the DNC convention. All right, guys, this is the Rubin Report. I am Dave Rubin. It is January 27th, 2026. Share, subscribe, tap that notification bell. You know where we're streaming because you're watching us right now. I thank you for tuning in. And let me toss one to you guys before we get into the program today, because I was saying to the guys, maybe, you know, we've got Copal out here. We're building a really nice business. It's a lovely, exquisite tequila for those of you that enjoy tequila. And I was thinking a marketing gimmick might be tequila that goes great with ice, or Copal great with ice, or something with ice. There's something there. I mean, yeah, you're going to get a certain amount of people to hate you, but you know, some people don't like me in the first place. I don't know. There's something there. DrinkCopal.com if you want some great tequila. Before we get to the program, though, today, as you know, there was a major storm that hit much of the country. And up in New York, they elected a woman who mostly, I would say her major focus in life has been injections into her very, very stiff face. And she got out there in the storm there, and she showed people how to shovel in New York. And I would imagine that the founders 250 years ago, if they were alive or had ever known that 250 years later, there would literally be governors of states telling people to shovel, they might have just scrapped the whole project in the first place. Here you go.
Pro tips on shoveling from someone from Buffalo who knows. Just push it out of the way, okay? See what I'm doing here? No strain on the back from doing that. Now when it gets a lot heavier, you're gonna have to do a little bit more, but don't lift much. Just do it in smaller bits, okay? Little bits, little bits. You can do this. Don't do a big pile and fill this up, because that can lead to a heart attack. You don't want that.
Can you imagine somebody shoveling out of a massive storm, and then like a husband shoveling and the wife running outside and being like, honey, I just saw a video of Kathy Hochul and you're holding the shovel wrong. Like, come on, what have we been reduced to as a nation? That really is the question. I do have a very minor correction, and then we will get to the show. I have a very minor correction to make, which is that yesterday we showed you an image from a tweet by Mayra Flores from Texas, well, she ran for Congress in Texas. We showed you this image. It was her tweet, which the information is correct, but we showed you the image of Obama giving Homan an award, and the image apparently is actually fake. He did receive an award. Phoenix, what award was it? It was the Presidential Rank Award for Extraordinary Results. So we were not wrong about the information, but the picture apparently is a fake. So let's get that out of the way. And let's just dive right in. You know what we're doing today. It's endless Minnesota and the absolute collapse of the Democrat Party into basically insurrection-y lunacy. It is unfortunate, I would say, but fairly obvious if you've been tracking what these people have been up to for the last 10 years. So let's start with, you might say that Tim Walz, because he's the governor, is kind of the center of this thing right now. You could also argue that maybe it's Minnesota Mayor Jacob Frey, because he's the mayor of the town that it's happening in. But then, of course, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, when you connect her and everything going on with the Somali fraud scandal, and the little bit of jihad and woke stuff, like they're all kind of circling the epicenter of this thing. My buddy Benny Johnson did a video yesterday where he has received some of Ilhan Omar's financial disclosures. And we mentioned on the show earlier this week that Ilhan basically went from being worth probably under $100,000 when she came into office. And now, although she's on her third marriage, she somehow is worth about $30 million in just a couple of years. That's a hell of a return on whatever it is she's up to. Anyway, Benny got some of her financial disclosures, including a winery that she owns. I didn't know about that. And well, listen to this.
I just investigated Ilhan Omar's official financial disclosures, and what I found was so dark and criminal, I don't know how she gets out of this without going to jail. Have a look at this. Here's Ilhan Omar's financial disclosure from the Congressional Record, year 2023. I want to bring your attention to this company right down here, eStCru LLC. This is a winery in Santa Rosa, California. It's not doing that well. The total value of the winery is listed at $15,000, and Ilhan Omar's barely making any money off of it at all. Hardly enough to pay a parking ticket. Okay, that's fine. Nothing really mysterious there. Businesses fail all the time. But go ahead and look at her filing for 2024, and you'll find that eStCru Winery, the same company in the same location, is now worth $5 million. That's incredible, up from $15,000. And now Ilhan Omar's making enough to pay rent.
Okay, so we're going to show you a bit more on this, but something sort of interesting here. She has some kind of holdings in a winery in 2023 that's worth $15,000. That's literally nothing. Like you have virtually no sales. No one, I don't know anyone that's heard of this winery. You can do some research on it for yourself, but at 15K, a company that's worth 15K in essence is worth nothing. Then a year later, it's worth $5 million. Now that means you must have had some pretty freaking major sales. Well, Benny continued to dig.
Social media, Facebook page, you'll see here that the last post, oh no, was in 2023. Well, let's go ahead and check their official website. What is eStCru? We are winemakers and memory curators, okay? So I'm sure I can go and get some of their wine, right? Well, they don't have any activities here, so maybe I could just go to their location and buy some of their wines, or maybe give them a call. Let's try and go to their location here. This is the Google Street View of eStCru Winery, and what you'll find here is an empty parking lot.
All right, so there's an empty parking lot, and somehow in 1 year they went from basically worth nothing to $5 million. Of course, their last social media post is in 2023, but it's in 2024 when they say they're worth $5 million. Something seems strange. That doesn't look like a winery, does it? Here's a bit more.
Like, what is this exactly? Aren't you supposed to sell wine at your wine company? Where are your wines? Oh, there are no wines. You want to know why? Because this is a fake company. Rep. Ilhan Omar's husband accused of swindling investors in their California winery. They stole millions from cannabis growers. You can see here's the lawsuit right here, saying that Tim Mynett, who's Ilhan Omar's third husband, no relation, swindled his investors and defrauded them.
Well, this is getting quite curious. Something that was worth nothing became worth $5 million. You go to the website, there's basically nothing at the actual physical location. You can't buy their wine, and it turns out that there's a lawsuit involving the investment into the wine company by some cannabis people. Also, 3 men on this earth chose to marry that wench. That really is the scandal here more than anything else. I don't care about the money laundering at some level, but 3 men were like, yeah, I'm into that. I mean, that just really makes you really would just make you question everything. And one of them was her brother. I mean, it's just, in case you haven't seen it, I had Ayaan Hirsi Ali on, who is a Somali immigrant to America, who is a true American hero. And as I said yesterday, if you believe that angels actually exist, like here and now, she is an angel. She is a fighter for Western values and for freedom and for true feminism in its most pure form, equality for women, et cetera, et cetera. I asked her a bit about Ilhan Omar, since they both happen to come from the same place. So since Ilhan is the representative from there and seems to be at the center of this, I mean, do you think she's sort of equal parts all 3 of those things? She kind of thought, well, do the fraud because we can kind of get away with it and I'm the representative. Kind of has sympathies, let's say, to the Muslim Brotherhood, and then obviously is a progressive in the Democrat Party. Is she equal parts, or do you think one is running? It's just hard to understand what's going on there.
Ilhan is 100% clan-oriented. And again, the other thing you have to understand is the Muslim Brotherhood in Minnesota and elsewhere in America is decentralized. And this is, she's essentially, she's a real politician. I think she's a capable, talented politician. And she can put on these different hats, whatever or headscarves, whenever it is convenient.
Okay, so if you haven't seen my interview with Ayaan, it went up on Saturday. It's got over 1 million views already. She so explains the Klan part of this, which is what so much of this is revolving around. You may remember a couple months ago when they had the election that Jacob Frey got reelected to be the mayor. He was running against this Somali guy, whatever, it doesn't even matter what his name was, I can't remember. But Ilhan backed Frey because her clan wanted him, not the other guy. So they've brought sort of their sectarian way of thinking from Somalia into America. Then the three pillars of that are, there's the clan part, then she also is very, I don't want to say she's part of the Muslim Brotherhood. She's very friendly, let's say, to the Muslim Brotherhood. And then she's just a talented politician, as Ayan says, who's part of the progressive movement. So there's three kind of pillars with her that are deeply, deeply dangerous. Listen to this tweet from Ilhan yesterday. ICE will leave Minnesota if you hand over your voter rolls, tells you everything you need to know. This was never about immigration or fraud. It was always about rigging elections. J.D. Vance, our vice president, he retweeted that and he said, we really want illegal aliens to vote in elections and will riot to ensure that is so. So this seems to be, leave that up for just a second. You know, I often talk about the framing issue that the late, great Scott Adams brought up, that we're all watching the movie and seeing two very different things, even though it's the same movie that we're watching. We're all walking out of the theater and then we're having dinner after, or we're having coffee at the diner, and the way we are exchanging what we just saw just makes no sense to people. So you can come back to me. So the issue here is that it seems to me that about half the country, it's a little more than half the country, largely agrees with Donald Trump, right? Like the illegals have got to go. And sometimes it's going to be a little bit messy when they go, and nobody really loves the imagery coming out of Minnesota, but what do you expect the ICE to do? What do you expect them to do when people are throwing things at them and blocking roadways and throwing Molotov cocktails and ice at them and literally throwing ice at ICE and everything else? So that's, let's say a little more than half the country, and then a little less than half the country is on the Democrat side of this, which seems to be that ICE is the new Gestapo and a bunch of Nazis who are here and they're just separating families and they're gratuitously murdering people and everything else. Now, you're watching this show, so obviously we're largely in agreement on the big issues here. That we might have some little disagreements, or maybe ICE made a mistake with this or that or the other thing. But the problem is half the country basically has been so radicalized, there's nothing ICE could do. It's sort of like when people are like, well, I'm for the deportations, but I just don't, I don't like how they're doing it. And it's like, okay, how would you do it? How are you going to figure out how to get 21 million people who came here within the last 4 years? And that's on top of, let's say, the 15 mil, roughly 12 to 15 mil who were already here. How would you do it? You're going to crack a couple eggs. But interestingly, all of the people who are deeply, deeply upset, the fact that we are abiding by the laws of the United States and getting illegals out, just like if any American was illegal in any other country, they would be jailed or kicked out. They had nothing to say for 4 years of this.
That's in dynamic.
All right, well, I'm going to take from that if you can't answer yes, then the answer is no.
That is not true.
All right, so then you're saying all 9 are secure.
It is my testimony that the border is secure, and we are working every day, day and night, to increase its security.
So I really want you to think for a second, or if you're watching this movie and your partner, your wife, your husband, your cousin, your uncle, your nephew, your colleague, your friend is watching another movie, right? We're watching the same thing, but watching another movie. I want you to show them one of those videos right there. Connor, you can throw back to it, a little B-roll. Like, show them those videos. What is worse that we allowed this? We allowed thousands and thousands and actually millions of people. Who are these people? Notice it's almost all men. They're not poor and impoverished. They've got nice jackets, nice outfits. They're seemingly healthy and all in their 20s and 30s and 40s. Where's the 80-year-old women coming with, a schmata on her head and a bag, like came from Eastern Europe in the 1940s America? Like, where's that? But so which is worse? What is happening on the streets of Minnesota right now, which is largely because the Democrats are using brain-broken woke activists as their foot soldiers to fight ICE, or the fact that we had an invasion for 4 years and the media and the Dems said absolutely nothing about it. As a matter of fact, they were the ones instigating it. I leave that question to you to debate with your friends who are watching the other movie. Let's talk about balance of nature for a moment, and then we'll get more onto some of the ideological reasons that this has been happening. It can be tough to stick with New Year's resolutions, which is why my Balance of Nature's Whole Health System supplements are one of the easiest habits to start and stick with. The Whole Health System is designed to fit seamlessly into everyday life. You can mix 2 scoops of the fiber and spice blend into water or a drink for a warm, aromatic boost. You can also open the fruit capsules and blend them into a smoothie or sprinkle the veggie powder over savory meals. It's simple, flexible, and easy to make part of a daily routine. What makes Balance of Nature stand out is what's inside. The Whole Health System includes 47 ingredients made from 100% whole fruits, vegetables, spices, and fibers, things like flaxseed, cinnamon, turmeric, mango, pineapple, wild blueberries, and more. This new year is the perfect time to start a routine you'll actually enjoy and can keep going all year long. Right now, you can lock in 50% off an entire year when you subscribe to the Whole Health System as a preferred customer. Just go to balanceofnature.com to get started. Okay, you know, I often show you guys portions of that incredible video from the early 80s by a former KGB agent by the name of Yuri Bezmenov, and he lays out how would you subvert a democracy and basically destroy it from within. And the reason I show it to you all the time is because if America is ever going to fail, if we are ever going to be at the end of this thing, it's not going to be because Russia bombed us into our own destruction or Iran or China or anything else. Like, they can do all sorts of awful things, which they've done, with like flood our borders and import drugs, and we can get into trade wars and everything else, but we're not going to lose a military war. The way to destroy America would be that you would, over time, over several decades, as Yuri Bezmenov points out, you would take over the institutions, you would brainwash generations, and people would no longer be able to agree on anything. So when we talk about this watching the movie and having 2 different reactions thing, you kind of get it. So there's a Twitter account that is sort of dedicated in honor of Yuri Bezmenov. And it put this up, and I thought it laid it out quite nicely. So this is what's going on right now. 1, Democrats engineer disruptions, shut down, block key bills like the Clarity Act, resist ICE raids in blue cities, ATC walkout. So that's what's happening right now. 2, force a Trump overreaction, military intervention, Reagan-style firings, or crackdowns on state protests. Interesting. 3, frame Trump as a tyrant to delegitimize. 4, escalate to insurrection, activate black shirts, protesters, possibly global ties. 5, blue states form compact, declare emergency, prototype new government, reject federal authority. 6, outcome, big sort, blue state edition, cripple red America economically and politically, push post-Trump reforms without armed conflict. So you can see, guys, that's just his way of laying out what he thinks is going to happen here, but it kind of all feels right. It's why I keep saying we're between an unstoppable force and an immovable object right now. The Democrats will not stop. This is their party is so out of control, so run by radicals. I'm telling you, this sounds cynical. They are happy. The party leaders are happy when people die on the streets because that is more fodder for them. That is more food and more energy for the revolution. They want this to continue because broadly Trump's policies and the things that Trump is doing are good for the country, but they're not interested in that. And Trump on the other side of this cannot turn around. How does he cut and like, what would be the out for Trump? Like, all right, well, we didn't get all the illegals, but you know, there were people out there fighting, and I guess we're just gonna have ICE and the federal government walk away and we'll just concede the city. Then literally MAGA is over. And in some sense, I think you could argue that the authority of the United States government is over. And then congratulations, Trump, you get whooped in about 10 months from now in the midterms. You probably get impeached and we're screwed beyond imagination. Now, of course, what escalated a lot of this is that there have been 2 deaths related to ICE. You know about one, that lady who moved the car and started going forward to hit an ICE officer was shot. You can argue all the specifics, that's what happened. Then there was this other guy who brought a loaded gun, got into a fight, he gets shot. Well, here is Whoopi doing what Whoopi always does.
So, people on both sides of the aisle are saying the account from Nome and Bovine does not seem to match what they watched with their own 2 eyes. So the question is, how long can they continue this? They murdered a man. He is standing, he has his phone, and he has a bottle of water. He has his phone and a bottle of water, and they shot him 10 times. What the?
Notice, Whoopi, you didn't play the video while you were explaining that. Now, I'm not even defending everything ICE did or didn't do right there, and we showed you the video yesterday, and there's a bunch of guys on top of him, and it does look like he's grabbing a gun. And again, it's all like whittling all that down. They always want you to keep whittling everything down to the left. When you take the totality of the overall like lunacy that's happening on the streets there, some weird things are going to happen. But she's using the word murder. They want you to think they are just murdering people. But again, could we just go back to the people flooding the border? Why didn't you have, let's just say you're right. Let's say you're right for a second, okay? And that man should not be dead, okay? Maybe there's an argument there, okay? But why didn't you say anything about this? This was the invasion of our country that led to it, and you didn't say jack shit about it, Whoopi. Because you're an activist, I don't know what you're pretending to be a journalist. I don't know what you're pretending to be the predator, whatever it is. But if you want to see like the profound absurdity of these women, Sunny Hostin, the most racist woman in television, as you know, now, because Alex Pretti had a gun on him and Minnesota's a concealed carry state, apparently she's for concealed carry. It's wild, absolutely wild.
We see now that the government lies to the American people, and they also flout the Second Amendment and Minnesota law, because Alex Pretti, while he did have a concealed weapon, he had a permit to have a
He was allowed to carry it.
And Minnesota is an open carry or concealed carry state.
Yes.
Well, Sunny, Whoopi, I'm very happy to hear that you're for the Second Amendment and you're for concealed carry and you're for states' rights. Those are things that I've never heard out of you. Now, in this case, you're only for it because the guy who died was on your side and doing those things. We don't have to do the hypocrisy game, but imagine if it was the other way and it had been a MAGA guy who died with the gun. You guys would be saying he was about to kill all of those officers. Blah, 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 blah. It's just ridiculous. But it gets even crazier. And it's incredible how as the years go by and as we have the internet, that they keep lying and they know we can debunk their lies, and yet they keep doing it, right? That's that great Alexander Solzhenitsyn quote. Look at this from Autism Capital. This is incredible. How the media edited Joe Rogan's picture versus how they edited Alex Pretti's picture. So you remember this years ago at the height of COVID, when Joe Rogan was using what they called horse dewormer to get rid of COVID. They put a picture of him. It was a selfie video that he did talking about how it was actually working to cure him of COVID or cure him of the symptoms. And look what they did of the color of his face. They made him look green like an ogre, when the original video right beneath it, you see he looks tan and normal and healthy and everything else. They do, and that was CNN. Now look at what MS Now, I'm always gonna have trouble saying that, but MS Now did with this Alex Pretti guy. They made him look better. They tanned him and they made his features look stronger and everything else. Look, he looks much healthier. They didn't want you to think that he was a sickly guy or whatever it is. So they use these little tricks to do these things. Imagine if I did that. Imagine if I did that. We started editing videos in such a way to just make all of the people I don't like look worse. They look pretty bad on their own, so we don't have to do it. But I just want you to see the tricks that they are still up to. The other thing they do is they will use your principles against you, which is exactly what Sunny was doing right there. She wants you to suddenly feel guilty for being for the Second Amendment or being for concealed carry. And this one from CNN's Cassie Hunt is absolutely disgusting, just using Charlie Kirk, who cannot defend himself against ICE right now. Take a look.
I want to bring back a tweet from Charlie Kirk in 2018. He says this: the Second Amendment's not for hunting, it's not for self-protection. It is there to ensure that free people can defend themselves if, God forbid, government became tyrannical and turned against its citizens. And I think a lot of people are pointing to this because, I mean, what we saw in the streets.
What there? Are you saying that ICE is the government turning tyrannical because they're going around and trying to find illegals who are not supposed to be here, and then you have ramped up brain-broken woke zombies who are attacking them? Okay, so your implication is that, okay, the government is authoritarian and tyrannical, so Pretti should have been out there with a gun shooting those people. Nobody on the right now is upset that he had a gun or had concealed carry. It's that he was using he was out there getting in the way of a lawful process, which is what ICE is trying to do. So the fact that you would try to use Charlie Kirk's words against him, really think about it. Cassie, Charlie Kirk, who cannot defend himself right now, he would still defend anyone's ability, anyone that could legally have a firearm, to have a firearm. He would still defend the Second Amendment. He would still defend concealed carry. He wouldn't defend people that were illegally trying to stop ICE from getting illegals out of the country. But the media is all in on this. Like, we've been through this, guys. We did BLM already. We did COVID already. They have picked a side. They are in on it. Here is just hack extraordinaire Nicole Wallace explaining how brave these protesters who are attacking ICE are.
The city of Minneapolis, an act of historic bravery. Take a look at this. These are images of an American city rising up in protest against Donald Trump and the brutality and cruelty of his administration. Thousands of people are braving a wind chill of minus 20 degrees. It's part of a coordinated day of peaceful action.
All right, well, Nicole, it appears you live in New York City, and as these protests get worse and come to New York City, we'll see what it's like for you to get into your building when they're just outside of your building. And you're no doubt a millionaire and a 1%er, and they don't really like you either. And when they start breaking windows and when they start, when it becomes like the end of Gangs of New York or Dark Knight Rises and they start going to the Upper East Side and grabbing people out of their beds, you'll probably be one of them. And you'll go, but I was on your side. And it won't matter, lady, because they're just going to look at your fancy outfit and your well-done hair, and they're going to throw you to the guillotines too. That's how this works. You're telling me these people are brave? You know who's brave? It's the ICE officers who are under extraordinary threat, who are being doxxed, who are being attacked, and all they are doing is trying to get illegals out of the country. But to further illustrate that there is an entire machine that wants you to see a movie that is not really the movie that is happening right now, let's go to late night quote unquote comedy. Stephen Colbert, a man who makes $16 million for a show that loses about $100 million a year, pretty good gig if you can get it, who will be out of a job soon, thankfully. Here he is with comedy.
Today, more than half of Americans are digging out from a massive winter storm. Freezing temperatures from Texas all the way up to Maine. We can all agree, ice. Now,
what a bunch of losers. What a bunch of losers. Can you go back to the applause for a second? Just these applauding, I always say it's
today,
like these applauding
ice.
heels.
Now,
and look at them. Oh my God. Oh my God, look, and they're all white. Every single one of them is white and well-dressed in LL Bean or Banana Republic or whatever. And just F ICE. Like, okay, all of you, how about each one of you take an illegal in and let them share a room with your daughter? But you guys don't want to actually do good, right? You want to pretend you're doing good. And Jimmy Kimmel, you want to rake in the millions while you literally instigate the revolution that will have someone like you on the guillotine too. Yes, it'll have someone like me there first, but they are coming for you too. Not Jimmy, I called him Jimmy Kimmel because here's Jimmy, that was Stephen Colbert. It doesn't even matter. They're just wearing a skin suit. It's the same robot beneath both of them. Anyway, here's Kimmel with more of comedy.
Every day is a nightmare now. My wife and I have family in Minneapolis. They're afraid to take their kids to school. They're afraid to go to work. And I can only imagine how people who aren't white feel about this. Can we agree that peaceful protesters, including moms driving SUVs on their way back after dropping their 6-year-old off at school, and a nurse who stepped in to protect a woman from harm, don't deserve to be shot dead in the street by the people we are paying to protect us? Can we agree on that?
He just lied. He just absolutely lied. The woman parked her car in the middle of the street to block traffic. That is illegal, having nothing to do with ICE or immigration or deportations or anything else. If anyone watching this, if you just picked the street in front of your house or a main thoroughfare or anywhere, and you just parked in the middle, you just had your reasons, you would be taken away by the police. She then also tried to drive over an ICE officer. So it's just profoundly absurd. And also, of course, he makes it about race, that if, people weren't white, imagine how scared they'd be. And he's telling me that what are you talking about, Jimmy Kimmel? You have relatives in Minnesota who are afraid to leave the house. First off, that's a lie. But even if there was even if that was true, so you might have a mentally ill relative. I actually would believe that. So you've got some mentally ill Kimmel wandering around Minnesota who's afraid to, well, they're not wandering. They're just up in the attic hiding. Are they illegal? Because unless they're illegal, they have nothing to be hiding from. Unless you're saying they're out there afraid to leave because the streets have been taken over by anarchists. That might be a reason, because they were going to go to Starbucks and they had some lunatic throw something at them. That might be. Anyway, here he is with crocodile tears.
And to the people of Minneapolis, to the Pretti family and the Good family, and these people who were looking out for their neighbors, we want you to know that we are with you and you are not alone.
Give him some cash, man. How much are you going to give? You're worth a shit ton of money. Give him some cash. The fake crying. You know, guys, I'm on air for a living, right? Like, you know, after Charlie died, you know, it was extremely, you remember what it was like. Like, I was as raw and real as I could possibly be. And maybe there was once or twice where I was the tiniest bit choked up, but you can fake it. These people are actors. That's what they are. What is he crying about right there? What is he crying about? How come you don't cry about this? You know what this is? These images? This is a small selection of young, beautiful girls who are all dead right now. Laken Riley, Jocelyn Ungari, Rachel Morin, who is the mother of, I think, 5 children, Kayla Hamilton, Kate Steinle, Molly Tibbetts, Sarah Root, Lisbeth Medina, Megan Boz, Maria Pleats. These are, look at them. You don't care about them. You don't cry about them. So what is really going on here? Why do you guys not care about them? You don't shed one tear. You don't mention them once or anything else. And then when people break the law and attack law enforcement and cause chaos on the streets, you're crying. You sack of poop. The kids like poop these days. It's a lot of poop jokes around here. So you sack of doo-doo. My buddy Adam Carolla, who has been subjected to living around Hollywood elites his entire life and actually did a show with Jimmy Kimmel, where Jimmy Kimmel was often in blackface, mocking black people. Sometimes he would pretend he was a Latina maid and all sorts of other stuff. Here he is on Fox explaining that perhaps Hollywood should sit this one out.
Hollywood should sit this one out. You idiots were just wrong with COVID like 10 minutes ago. Remember? For 4 years they were wrong with COVID. For 4 years they were wrong with Russiagate, Hunter Biden's laptop, Joe Biden's sharp man. That guy could do a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. Remember all that? That was all out of you, Hollywood. So maybe you guys are wrong about stuff on occasion. Your batting average is horrible. So why don't you just shut up and sit one out?
No, they can't.
Might you, I will text Carolla at our next commercial break and ask him to send this clip directly to Kimmel, because if there was anyone that should shut up now, it's Kimmel. You lying, crocodile tear-having buffoon. You show the girls again for just a second. Why do you guys not care about these people? Why do you care more about hordes of people, some of whom might just be fine, who decided to illegally come to this country? You care about them, and to be quite honest, you care about the murderers and the rapists more than the girls who were murdered and raped. That is a fact. Here is Caroline Leavitt explaining a bit more on the circumstances that led to the shooting that has Jimmy Kimmel crying.
As President Trump said yesterday, the administration is reviewing everything with respect to the shooting, and we will let that investigation play out. But let's be clear about the circumstances which led to that moment on Saturday. This tragedy occurred as a result of a deliberate and hostile resistance by Democrat leaders in Minnesota. For weeks, Governor Walz and the Mayor Jacob Frey and other elected Democrats were spreading lies about federal law enforcement officers. Governor Walz and Mayor Frey have shamefully blocked local and state police from cooperating with ICE, actively inhibiting efforts to arrest violent criminals. They have also used their platforms to encourage left-wing agitators to stalk, record, confront, and obstruct federal officers who are just trying to lawfully perform their duties.
Did anything she say there sound not right to you or untrue? Of course they're ratcheting up. I want to even think about it this way, from a pro Second Amendment perspective. Imagine you're an ICE officer And now they've been calling you Nazis, and you go places and they throw things at you, and they're blocking roads and they're breaking windows, and they're literally taking, garbage canisters and putting them in the middle of the road and lighting them on fire and throwing mattresses and all of this crazy shit. Now you're out there trying to do your job. Now think about this, and I say this as a pro Second Amendment person. Now you also know that some of these guys might have guns. I'm just trying to show you. I'm not saying they shouldn't have guns. Now they shouldn't be doing anything illegal with those guns. But now just imagine what you are, the level of tension that you are. You have your coffee in the morning at the hotel in a town that you don't live in, and you are there to do a job. And now you walk into this job, people are saying the worst kinds of things to you, throwing things at you, you're being pushed, the media's right in your face. And then you also know that any of these people might have a gun. Now, again, I'm giving you the pro-Second Amendment perspective. I'm trying to show you the sort of psychological tension that is now sort of circling around all of this. But we will have more on what's going on in Minnesota in just a second. But first, Strong Cell. If fatigue, brain fog, constant sickness, or achy joints sound familiar, Strong Cell might be worth a look. Strong Cell supports mental clarity and focus, plus clean, natural energy without the jitters or that afternoon crash. The key ingredient is NADH, the energy source that powers every cell in the body. NADH levels decline with age, and with over 30 trillion cells to support, that matters. Strong Cell uses a proprietary delivery system designed to actually get nutrients into the cells where they're supposed to work. No corners cut on ingredients or manufacturing, which is crucial when so many supplements do little more than create expensive urine. When NADH is properly paired with CoQ10 and marine collagen, as Strong Cell does, it helps support mitochondria, the engines inside your cells. So if being tired of feeling tired sounds familiar, check out strongcell.com and use promo code Rubin to get 20% off. That's strongcell.com, promo code Rubin for 20% off today. Do your own research. The science backs it up. All right, so I want to, we're going to continue with what's going on in Minnesota, obviously, but I want to just quickly reread the Yuri Bezmenov tweet that I put up earlier, because it's just framing exactly what's going on here. One, Dems engineered disruptions. We know they're doing that. Shut down, block key bills like the Clarity Act, resist ICE raids in blue cities, ATC walkouts. All true, happening right now. Force Trump overreaction, military intervention, Reagan-style firings, or crackdowns on states/protests. You might argue, I don't think there's an overreaction right now, but this is what they're trying to instigate, okay? 3, like if you were just playing a game, you're just looking at a script right now. 3, frame Trump as a tyrant to delegitimize. Well, they're absolutely doing that. 4, escalate to insurrection, activate black shirts, protesters, possibly global ties. That's 100% happening. We showed you the signal chats that have leaked yesterday to show you there is massive military-style coordination with these protesters. 5, blue states form compact, declare emergency, prototype new government, reject federal authority. Now that's many steps down the line, but you could see how if we're going to be in constant war between a Republican federal government and the blue states, at some point this thing doesn't work. We are no longer united. And 6, outcome. Big sort, blue state edition, cripple red America economically and politically, push post-Trump reforms without armed conflict. I mean, again, that's several steps down the line. Frankly, as a Floridian, and we're a peninsula, and we can protect our borders fairly easily because they're water, and then we've got, one main thing with Georgia and a little bit with Louisiana. It's like we'd basically be okay, but do you want the United States to kind of crumble into sectarian warfare and we will simply no longer be united? Maybe that is what their plan is. Now I would like to show you a video. I often tell you about this guy. He's been on the show many times, Khanna. He's a congressman from Silicon Valley area. He's pretty much the only Democrat in office that will respond and talk to me. I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. I will be happy to have him on the show again. Each time I have had him on the show, I've been sort of less impressed with his ideas. That's just the truth. Here he is now. So again, he's a congressman from Silicon Valley. He 100% wants to run for president. I bet the farm on it in 2028. And here he is showing up. I don't know why a congressman from Silicon Valley needs to show up to a riot in Minnesota, but he shows up to the riot in Minnesota, and here's a local fella telling him that, well, there's going to be more of this violence there.
This is what Minnesota looks like. I said it earlier, these cameras. I'm not here for y'all. But the fact that you are here, sir, shows me that you're willing to lead by example. Everyone say by example.
By example.
So when you go back to Capitol Hill Tell them I said it. If they bring their asses here, with us, it's gonna get worse.
What? What are you doing, Ro? Like, have a little fucking, damn. Like, have a little dignity. What are you doing? You're hugging this guy. He's threatening violence. I like this everyone say thing. Everyone say, Dave Rubin's the best podcast host.
Dave Rubin's the best podcast host.
Everyone say, Dave Rubin doesn't even have to pay me to do this job.
Dave Rubin doesn't have to pay me to do this job.
All right, we're gonna work that through, but there is a mass mental affliction hitting this country. Pathetic. I'm sorry, Ro. Pathetic, pandering politicians. What are you doing there? What does this have to do with you? Where were you for 4 years as they fled the country with 21 million people? Why is it that you are against, you are illegal? I think he's a first generation immigrant, if I'm not mistaken. Was it his parents or him that came here? For which generation? Was it him or his parents? You're either a first or second generation immigrant from India. Maybe he's second generation. We'll get it in just a second. But either way, your parents or you came here legally. Why are you for illegal people coming here? And then you're hugging the guy. I like how the guy's like, and you, sir, you are, he don't even know who Ro is. Ro, and then the guy's like, and you go to Capitol Hill and tell him I sent you. Like, okay, like Ro's gonna show there. Well, there was this guy, and he was wearing a do-rag, and he was screaming a lot, and he had a bunch of clone soldiers behind him repeating everything he said, and he told me to tell you guys, like, it's the, yeah, who? What?
It's his parents.
It's his parents that came here, right? Like, it's just here. And okay, so then you get that. You get all of that. I was going to do another one of the everyone say, but I'll let it slide for now. You get all of that. And then I want to focus back on the overall tension that this creates, because you have activists out there standing with congressmen saying, we ready to get real violent on your ass if you don't do what we want you to do. And you better tell them up in Washington, okay, fine. But imagine the tension that these ICE officers are left with. Here are two officers who were surrounded by a mob outside of the motel they had to stay in. And well, you can see the blood and everything else.
Got it?
Any other form of law coverage
All right, so there's another, I mean, they're at like a Comfort Inn or something. They're not at the freaking Four Seasons or the Mandarin Oriental. Again, that guy who got attacked there and he's bleeding, you can see in other versions of the video, I mean, you can hear the person in the background of that video. They are reporting, oh, there's two ICE officers here. They basically trapped them. Why don't you care about that, Jimmy Kimmel? Do you think those, like, do you fundamentally, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, all you dingbats, Cassie Hunt and the rest of you, do you think those are evil people, those guys who put on that uniform that morning and left their families, right? Left their families to go do the work of making sure that legal immigrants are the people who will be here in the United States, staying in, it was like a Comfort Inn or something. And it's like, they're trapped there and that guy is bleeding and you don't care about that. The reason they don't care about that is they are here for the revolution, right? I think I have a pretty decent track record over the last 10 years about ringing the alarm when it came to how radical the left was going to become and that they weren't always going to be Democrat socialists. They were eventually going to be socialists. And now most people realize that they're communists and or Marxists, and there's also a dash of jihad in it and all of those things, and how dangerous identity politics was going to become. So Linda Sarsour, who is an Islamist, she is a full-on Islamist who is working with NGOs that are definitely connected to the Democrat Party. Someone get on the freaking RICO case already. Here she is calling for a general strike in New York City.
What we say today to the leaders, the political leaders in this country, that we are not afraid. And more of us will come outside. And we will organize general strikes, and we will bring this country to a halt.
Who do you think you are, you entitled, grotesque witch? I assume she's here legally. I would assume. Otherwise, that would really be something. Although she should probably be denaturalized and deported because she's part of the Muslim Brotherhood and trying to destroy this country. But okay, putting that aside for a moment, they're telling you, it's the Yuri Bezmenov ghost tweet that I've now read to you twice. They're telling you what they are going to do. They are not going to stop. They are not going to stop, period, until they win the revolution. And if Donald Trump and his administration don't realize that, then 250 years will be about as far as America makes it. Now, I think Donald Trump does get it. I think these people are willing to fight. We're going to show you some polling at the end that shows most people actually still support Trump as it comes to all of this. But you really have to understand, there you have politicians from Silicon Valley showing up, listening to screaming lunatics promising more violence. That's Ro Khanna. You've got Islamist activists in New York City promising to bring the city to its knees. This is nationwide right now. And if we don't fight it properly, and if we don't have serious people in charge that are going to deal with it, that's it, people. Interestingly, there is a facility that is housing illegal immigrants who have been taken from ICE, not yet deported, in Texas. I want to show you some of the video. This was put up by Reuters, and then I'm going to read you their headline on it. But this is some of the video of the illegal immigrants who are being housed in Texas, who are just not happy about the overall situation, which is, I suppose, is their right, but here you go. Okay, now that you might be watching that going, Dave, that didn't seem like much. Why'd you show me that? Although it does look like kind of Squid Game situation, which I would be all for turning this into a Squid Game situation. At this point, like that would be fine with me. That facility, well, first I've got two interesting pieces of information on that facility. Remember this tweet that we read to you yesterday? Remember this? Can you show it up there? This is from Tony Gonzalez, who's the local representative there. In the coming days, you're going to see a lot of grandstanding by politicians at the Dilley Ice Center in my district, Texas 23. It's all for show. That was the Dilley Ice Center. You're seeing it right there. And the video that we just showed you was the Dilley Ice Center. I've been there and seen the state-of-the-art facilities and protocol that ICE Gov follows. Our ICE agents and CBP personnel are doing their jobs. And yet again, Democrats are doing everything they can to spin the truth against law enforcement. So Reuters doesn't put up the video that you're seeing there, where they've got basketball courts and computers, and there's kids running around, everybody's got fresh clothes and everything. They show you the other thing that looks a little Squid Gamey, but I do want to show you the tweet that they attached it to. Do we have the tweet? Because listen, I'm sorry, it's not Reuters, it was the Associated Press, that's my bad. Listen to what they wrote as they showed that video. Dozens of immigrant families protested for better treatment Saturday behind fences at a Texas detention facility where a 5-year-old Ecuadorian boy and his father were sent this week after being detained in Minnesota. Do you see what they did there? Dozens of immigrant families. They're not immigrant families, they're illegal immigrant families. They didn't just run around grabbing new citizens to the United States and throw them in those facilities. They are illegal, but they do this with everything. Everything is a lie. Everything is an obfuscation. Everything is a confusion. So the average person who's not paying that much attention, you might see a headline from the AP and be like, wait a minute, they're doing that to immigrants? I like immigrants. My grandma was an immigrant. But no, it's illegal immigrants. Anyway, let's get on the Squid Games thing. I think that would be great. Here is Bill O'Reilly, who I like the ornery older Bill O'Reilly, as I pointed out many times. Here he is raising the alarm. Like it's exactly what I said moments ago. We better get freaking serious about this because they are not going to stop. Go.
Where are they? Where is Kash Patel? All right? You can debate videotape all day long. You can say whatever you want to say, but there has to be an overriding authority in this state. And there isn't. Did you see, Leland, and because you've been studying it like I have, one Minneapolis police officer protecting ICE against the demonstrators? Did you see one?
No, but that's not the FBI's job to investigate them.
The answer is no. The answer is no.
Okay, so it's interesting. You know, it's funny. Bill and I, even though he's obviously a bit older than I am, we come from just a town or two over, and I think there's a certain line of thinking that you get growing up in Long Island that's very similar, which is why I've really come to appreciate him over the years. Let's get him back on the show in the next week or two if we can. You know, what he's pointing out there is, okay, Cash, you better get involved because what he's trying to say is there's a bigger scandal here than just the foot soldiers, the clone soldiers, the zombies fighting ICE. Where are the Minneapolis police? I'm not saying I think maybe he slightly misspoke there. I'm not saying the Minnesota police have to defend ICE, which is what he said. I'm not exactly sure that's it. But I think the Minnesota police do have to defend law and order in their city. So if you see a whole bunch of protesters that just take over a street, push garbage trucks in the middle, light fires, throw mattresses, break windows, literally lock ICE officers, they're free citizens of the United States, literally entrap them in hotels, kind of similar to how the Hamas guys trapped those janitors in the hotels, in the buildings at Columbia University. Shouldn't the police be on that? So there is a scandal here that perhaps the FBI could get involved in, and it's not just the coordination with NGOs and the Democrats of the foot soldiers, it's what's going on at the top. Well, Tim Walz is telling you, it's one thing to say, okay, my police are not going to work with ICE to deport people. I'm not for that, but it's one thing to say that as a governor. It's a complete other thing to just shut down your police department, right? So is it ICE's job to clean up the streets when mass lunacy is taking place and anarchy? I don't think so. I think that's the job of the Minnesota police. That is the point. There is going to be an escalation because I do think Trump is listening to, basically what I've been laying out here, what Bill O'Reilly is laying out, and others, that they better get more serious about this because now Tom Homan's going to get involved. We'll have a bit on that in just a second, but first, Tax Network USA. Do you owe back taxes or haven't even filed in years? Now's the time to resolve your tax issues. With the national debate around abolishing the income tax system, the IRS is pushing back by becoming more aggressive than ever. They're sending more collection notices, filing more tax liens, and collecting billions more than in recent years. If you owe or you haven't filed, it's not a matter of if the IRS will act, it's when. Right now, Tax Network USA is offering a completely free IRS research and discovery call to show you exactly where you stand. Their programs and strategies can save you thousands or even eliminate your debt entirely if you qualify. Don't make the mistake of trying to handle the IRS on your own. Representing yourself or calling them directly can waive your rights and cost you significantly more. The IRS is not on your side, but Tax Network USA is. Get the protection you need and start resolving your tax matters once and for all. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Dave for your free discovery call. Don't let the IRS be the first to act. All right, so as I keep saying, I don't know how long this kind of low-level terrorist-style warfare can happen on our streets. This is the type of thing, like when you see these, you see the flash bombs going off, you see the broken windows, you see bleeding soldiers, all of the stuff. Like that's what we're accustomed to seeing in other countries. Now, we've been through this with BLM, as I said. We've conceded our cities. Our blue cities have just been conceded to madmen. I simply don't know how you could live in a place like Minnesota or Portland or Seattle or San Francisco or New York. The laundry list goes on, all blue-run cities. I don't know how you could live in those. First of all, I don't know how you could raise a family in those cities, knowing that on any given day, something happens somewhere in the world, and there can just be mass protests that shut down everything. I don't know how you can function, right? Like, I got to take my kid to karate class. Oh, I can't get there. There's a Hamas rally, or oh, I can't get there. Someone trapped a couple ICE agents in a hotel. That's one part. The other part is how do you have a business? I want to open up a store. What kind of store would you like to open up, Joseph? A pastry store. That's very nice. Joseph over here wants to open up Joseph's Pastries. And what are you going to specialize in? Guava? Guava pastries? That's very specific. And you answered that very quickly. That's interesting. So Joseph wants to open up a little guava pastry store here in Miami. Now, here in Miami, he'd be able to do it because we have police that function, we have state troopers that function, we work with ICE. If you walked into Joseph's guava store and stole a guava, Joseph would shoot you. And also Phoenix would be there and he'd shoot you too. And Connor would shoot you and I'd shoot you. There would be a lot of shooting at this guava pastry store. You might want to look into insurance on that. But the point is, we've created the conditions of freedom here so the man can run his little dream over there with his guava pastry store. You can't do that in blue cities because on any given day, they can take your guava, they can take your pastry, they can take your dignity, they can take your money, they can take your wife, they can take your kid, and you can't do it. So we have a problem. we have a problem. And I think Trump is realizing it. And now Tom Homan, the man who will play Tom Homan in the movie about Tom Homan called The Tom Homan Story, starring Tom Homan, he is coming down to Minnesota himself. Here's video first of DHS's Ollie McBrady explaining that the guy, Gregory, who has been in charge down in Minnesota, he's not going to not be in charge, but we're bringing in some reinforcements.
Yeah, hey, Elizabeth. So we can confirm here that Commander-at-Large Gregory Bovino is no longer that Commander-at-Large. He's been relieved of command. He will no longer be in that position. He will be going back to the El Centro sector. That is where he was chief. Now we can also tell you that the social media pages belonging to the Commander-at-Large social media handle have also been suspended across the board. Of course, this all comes as Tom Homan is here in town tonight as well. And we've learned as well that all of these agents that are here working under Commander Bovino, several of them are also leaving town. Should be learning more because obviously if Tom Homan is in town, we have this change of the guard, if you will. We expect to have some more answers.
Okay, so I might have framed that a little strangely. There's a little bit of conflicting information about why he is going and taking some of his top guys with him, but no, as far as I've heard, no one from the administration has said he's not doing a good job. It's just that I think they realize this thing has now has kind of ratcheted up nationally, and they have to get Homan involved because he's the guy, right? He's the face of this thing. Now I want to show you this video, Homan. We've shown you a million videos of how serious this guy is, but I think he just lays out truth. Why is it the Democrats don't care about the victims? They only care about the people that are protecting the bad guys.
6% decline. 96% less people are coming. How many women aren't being raped? How many children aren't dying making that journey? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked into this country every day? How many known suspected terrorists aren't just walking across that border? President Trump and this administration is saving thousands of lives every month. Hard stop. That's just a stone cold fact. I'm just proud to be a part of this. I work with Steve Miller every day. Steve Miller is one of the most brilliant people I've met in my entire life.
So that's a serious guy. And now he's going to go down there and the buck stops with somebody. And Trump's saying, Homan, the buck's going to stop with you. You got to clean this thing up. So my guess is there will be an escalation now. I don't see how this ends without an escalation. Now, it's kind of crazy because in a weird way, if you escalate, let's say you're Trump and now you bring in Homan, you send some more ICE agents down there, you know that the left is going to increase the violence on the street, get more protesters out there and all of that. And it's going to temporarily get worse, right? There's simply no doubt about that. They're not going to just walk away, right? That's the rock and the hard place situation that we're in right now. However, how else do you get out of it without conceding defeat? And we simply cannot do that. And Caroline Leavitt says that Trump has a plan.
It is President Trump's hope and wish and demand for the resistance and chaos to end today. That's why President Trump spoke with Governor Walz directly this morning, and he has outlined a clear and simple path to restoring law and order in Minnesota. Number one, Governor Walz, Mayor Frey, and all Democrat leaders should turn over all criminal illegal aliens currently incarcerated in their prisons and jails to federal authorities. Number two, state and local law enforcement must agree to turn over all illegal aliens who are arrested by local police. And then thirdly, local police must assist federal law enforcement in apprehending and detaining illegal aliens who are wanted for crimes, especially violent crimes.
Okay, so this is super interesting because that's Trump basically saying, guys, here you want to end this thing, here are the conditions. And they're not crazy, right? There are people in jail right now. They're in prison right now. You got to give them to us. You got to turn over the criminals and you got to have your local police work with us. Because as I just pointed out, when the local police just disappear, where are the local police? Having nothing to do with ICE when these guys take over streets. Where are the local police? So these are pretty like basic things. Then Trump is giving an off-ramp for these people. They're not going to take it. They're simply not going to take it. You think Walz is going to be like, you know what? Actually, I thought about it and I've decided that we are going to work with Donald Trump and my law enforcement will work with ICE and we're going to send the people who are in our prisons over to ICE and to be deported. He can't. And by the way, not only can't, he sort of can't because of his ideological bent, but he can't because if this thing wraps up, what are we all talking about next week? Well, we're going back to the Somali fraud thing that he's completely a part of, if not the key piece of. So the Democrat Party has created a situation that is so toxic. I see almost no way out of it other than completely overwhelming force. And I do see why that could be at least a temporary problem. There is one sane person in the Democrat Party. He's a man who had brain damage a few years ago by the name of John Fetterman. And here he is explaining that Joe Biden sucked and that we should deport illegal criminals. Crazy. This guy's
agree with me when
crazy.
I say that for 4 years, the country was lied to on a spectacular basis about the border being secure and the border being closed. And, 12 million plus unvetted illegals came into the country as a result, including all these bad people. Is that all true? The Democrats allow that to happen and then lie about it?
Yeah, without a doubt. President Biden did a terrible job, and our border was effectively open at that point. Whether Biden and Mayorkas did not secure our border, and I tried to warn my party back in 2023 that this would cost us in the election, and America deserves to secure our border. I don't know why every American can't agree with that thing. And another thing, it's the truth that we should all agree to deport all of the criminals that are here in our nation, right?
The fact that this simple hoodied man makes more sense than the rest of them. Now, look, you might say he's not great because what he says there is criminals, and he likely is not talking about, the people who have not committed some hardcore felony. But either way, he's the last man standing in that crazy freaking party. He really is. Now, interestingly, this is a winning issue for Trump, according to the polling that is even getting on CNN. So when you keep seeing the meme out there, the meme, which I've heard, and even Bill Maher said it the other day, which is, well, we're okay with the deportations. We just don't like how it's being done. Or the other thing that they say, because they want to emotionally manipulate you. What do they say? They say, I didn't want to be, not this way. Not this way. If I was in charge, I would do it, but it would be nicer. Like it's just not realistic. It's lip service, and it's very thin at the end of the day. But the point is that despite all of this is CNN yesterday saying that mass deportations are still a winning issue for Donald Trump.
Sometimes I like blunt questions because they sort of get at the underlying feelings that people have. So this is about as blunt a question as you can get. Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deport all immigrants who are here illegally. 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers.
Well, there's no arguing unless you're someone on The View, unless you're someone that's on CNN all day long, except for that guy who's just crunching numbers. If you're someone on all the rest of these news channels, or if you're a late night comic or anything else, just put the image up for just a second. I mean, these are overwhelming numbers, right? And it's a simple question. Deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no wiggle room there. Deport them all. Yes or no? We're not just talking about the rapists and the beheaders and the gangbangers and the guys who beat their wife with a boot. We're talking about everybody. These are, and look, ABC, CBS, New York Times, I don't know about the Marquette poll, but these are left-leaning institutions for sure. And those numbers are over freaking whelming. We're pretty much a 50-50 country. So when you're up 5 points in a New York Times poll, 14 points in Marquette, 7-6 in the other two, like those are over freaking whelming numbers. So the point of all of this is Donald Trump, do not lose your nerve right now. You lose your nerve, we lose the country. Simple as that. And Marco Rubio, here he is, Dan the show, 3 years ago, basically 4 years ago now, warning what would happen if the Democrats take over.
No, they would also take over our election system. They pretty much said they want to do that. Val Deming says she also wants the federal government to potentially take over our property insurance, which is, you can just imagine, maybe that's what the 87,000 IRS agents will do, is run the insurance company. But I mean, the list goes on of the parade of horribles of things they would do. Look, if they were in power, I'm convinced of this now, if they had a filibuster, no filibuster, whatever, and they had been in charge during the COVID, they would have locked down the country. They would have done to the country what they did to New York, what they did to California, what they did to Illinois. That's what they would have done. And even in their infrastructure bill, they brag about only a quarter of that money went to infrastructure. The rest of it went to take on very serious problems like, racist roads and discriminatory trees and whatever else they can think of. And so, look, I'm sorry. I hate to say this about my fellow Americans. These people are out of their minds, and they cannot be allowed to be near power.
Marco, if you're watching today, I have a good title for your next book, Racist Roads and Discriminatory Trees by Marco Rubio. I mean, it kind of works. Of course, he's right. Like, there's just no reason to think he's right. Where? Show me an instance anywhere. Anywhere outside of the occasional videos I show you of Maher and Fetterman. Show me anything out of a Democrat that makes sense. Show me anything out of a Democrat that's willing to negotiate. When they have freaking Donald Trump who would negotiate anything at any time, and they won't. They have made their decision. They are not Democrats anymore. They are socialists and communists and Marxists and jihadists. You can call it the Democrat Party, but yes, go right under that veneer, and what's inside of that thing is much, much more dangerous. They have made that clear. So Donald Trump, you've got the polling, you've got the American people. Most people want to live in safe states. Most people want Americans to be Americans. Most people understand that if you're going to do hard things, it's going to be a little messy. Don't lose your nerve, man. That's our show. Post-game show in 30 seconds. RubinReport.locals.com. Goodbye.
See, as you can see, the more you around, the more you're going to find out. And also, if you stay down here and you never around, you'll never find out. So I hope this lesson is helpful. Thank you.